everyone, and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by the one and only Dakota Lasky. Dak, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, I am doing just absolutely superbly, fantastically. I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. Yeah, doing all right. It was a pretty uneventful weekend for me. Obviously, it was a big week for gamers. GameStop hit over $100 today. It hit like $140 today in the stock market. So big week for gamers. As for me, not so much. Just a pretty uneventful weekend. You know, usual busyness with work and playing some games here and there, and continuing living life. How you doing?
Oh, I cannot complain. Yeah, I can't complain. I'm getting pretty far into the Expanse at this point. I'm almost just like, we got to do after we finish it. Maybe we'll just record a bonus episode one day, because I don't know. I think I already have some thoughts on that, and I know that you watch it and might have some thoughts. So maybe that's something we can do in the future. But yeah, I've been doing that. I've been playing a lot of games. Finished up Metroid Prime 2, of course, last week. So yeah, What can you say? There's not a lot to talk about when you can't go out and do anything or go anywhere or see anyone. So
yeah,
there you go. So we've got a jam-packed episode for you guys today with a couple pieces of Metroid news, and then we're going to take some fan questions at the end of the show. We were thinking of doing some Metroid theories, but we thought that what was going on might be a little bit more timely in the world right now. So we're going to put that on the back burner for now and come back to it. But I guess two things that we should talk about here. And I'm going to lead with the first one, because I actually just remembered it. And I'm not even sure if you've seen this project yet, Dax. So I'll kind of let you know. But there is a really, really talented dude by the name of Philip Summers at Hey Phil Summers. And this guy makes hand-drawn video game guides, and he made a Legend of Zelda for the NES hand-drawn video game guide. He actually sent me a copy about 6 months ago. It is absolutely beautiful. It's so well drawn. It's an awesome guide, and he has just revealed that his next big guide is going to be on Metroid. So that's going to be coming 2021. And you know what? I just saw the tweet. The artwork already looks awesome. Again, everybody, that is at Hey Phil Summers. You should go check him out and definitely support this project when it comes out. I don't know. Have you ever seen any of Phil's stuff before, Dak?
No, I haven't actually. If you can retweet that tweet maybe on the account, if you haven't already,
yeah,
I would like to take a look, because it's like, what do you mean, like a hand drawn like guide? So like, what is that?
So it's
what does that look like?
So it's a guide to the game, but there's like, and so instead of screenshots, let's just say that there's like hand drawn artwork, and there's like there's this really beautiful map that came with the Zelda guide. There's a couple posters that came with it. Even the packaging was just like in this really nice kind of gold envelope that looked like the NES cartridge almost. It was really, really well done. I just retweeted it off of the show account. I'm sorry to spring that on you, but I just saw it when I was opening up Twitter to do this show, and I figured we should give our boy Phil a shout out, because the Zelda one was just super, super well done, and I'm sure that the Metroid guide is going to be just as high quality. So yeah, you guys should check that out. He's a cool dude. And he makes really good stuff, so that'll be something to look forward to.
Well, I'm just looking at the tweet that you retweeted now, and it's short, but it looks really cool. Teaser, at least the teaser is short. I'm sure the guide is plentiful in terms of what it has to offer. That looks really cool. I mean, that's awesome. I haven't heard of this before, but it's a really cool idea. I've never thought about that, but that's like a really cool thing for like a collector, and.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously this is for like the original Metroid. I would love if like, they did like a drawn version of like the Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion 2-in-1 Prima guide. I got that when I was a kid growing up. That's my go-to Metroid guide. But this is cool too. Obviously, that would be a huge undertaking. But yeah, this is awesome. Definitely check them out. Looks cool. Looking forward to it. Can't wait for the final product.
Well, I guess another little piece of news that we should talk about, the latest Retro Studios hiring of the year 2021 is here. A Mr. Sam Tung joins the studio as a new storyboard artist, and our boys over at Shine Sparkers, I guess, first reported this back in October, but maybe it's just making the rounds and making the news now. Dak, you dug up some background on Mr. Tung here. Tell everybody a little bit about him, what he's done, and what he's doing over for Prime 4.
Yeah, so I guess how the timeline went was Shine Sparkers reported on the job listing for like product testers and a storyboard artist back in October of 2020. I'm sure we even commented on the show at some point because I'm sure that like went around and caught Twitter and whatnot. So then last week, Mr. Tung, Sam Tung, tweeted about joining Retro Studios. So he tweeted about it on January 20th, and then it seems like a day or so later, Shine Sparkers, a bunch of other sites like Go Nintendo and whatnot, I believe, reported on him joining Retro Studios as a storyboard artist based on that tweet he made, which seems to be like he got the job that was reported by Shine Sparkers back in October. That tweet got deleted, but there's still I'm not sure if you, I put a link in the notes, but I'm not sure if you got a chance to take a look at it really quick. This really short Metroid storyboard cinematic that's on his YouTube page from back in October of last year. And it's pretty cool, pretty simple in terms of like premise, right? Just Samus with some Metroids, whatnot, showing up on a planet, but looks really cool. Pretty nothing too complex, but it's a storyboard cinematic, so it's kind of more of a shell than anything else. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because I went into his background a little bit, and he actually doesn't really have too much actual game experience, right? Like he's been a storyboard artist for Rooster Teeth. He did the Genlock show, which I haven't followed much of Rooster Teeth stuff recently, except like the new Red versus Blue series. But that's a recent show. I know that. Also did a storyboard for an original Netflix series. Did an NBC Universal live action mini series, and then did a bunch of commercials for WWE, Target, Facebook, Nike, AT&T. Did storyboard for The Dark Tower, which was a movie from a few years back, and I believe also some kind of in-house or featurette video for Riot Games. So mostly like TV commercial movie background and then a little bit of like a web series background. Not so much from a video game background, but nonetheless, clearly someone who's very experienced and has been working in the field for, close to, if not a decade so far, as a storyboard artist, and yeah, most recently with Rooster Teeth. So joining the team. Not sure why he deleted the tweet. Probably after the all the websites were reporting on it, was probably just like, I'm just gonna delete this, or maybe someone told him to. But yeah, joining the Retro Studios team as a storyboard artist, and that's our big our first 2021 hiring news, right? I'm sure the first of many as we get through this year.
I'm sure we've joked before that when they hire a new janitor, we're going to be reporting on that and making it seem like a big deal. I think that's pretty cool. Again, just shows you that despite the evidence to the contrary, progress is still being made on Prime 4, and eventually maybe one day we'll see a trailer. Who knows? Maybe he's being brought in to storyboard a new trailer. That could be a possibility. Who knows? I think that's pretty cool. I think the lack of video game experience doesn't really matter. You've kind of
agreed.
I think those are very transferable skills. And as long as you understand how to make a cool storyboard, it doesn't really matter what kind of medium you're doing it for. So yeah, that's very cool. And hopefully it leads to something that we can see, something tangible, quite soon. All right, let's keep it going and talk about one of the major pieces of news from this last week, and actually a big chunk of what we're going to do our show on here today, and that is the latest bit of would-be Metroid merchandise that is being thrown out there around. It's made its way around the news cycles. You've probably seen it at Nintendo Life, Metroid Database. All the big sites were reporting this really cool article where we had a really awesome Metroid pitch for Lego Ideas. So basically, the way that I understand it, the way that this works is anybody can submit something to Lego Ideas, and it has to get a certain amount of votes for it to be kind of taken to the next level to be considered. And Metroid had kind of a modest amount of votes, and after the story made the rounds this week, it quickly ballooned from I think a couple thousand votes away to over 10,000 votes by the end of this week, and that was the goal. So now it looks like this project is being considered, and man, what a project it is. If you have not seen this, I'll put the link in the show description here, but it is super, super, super cool. We've got a Lego version of Samus's gunship, and with every new amount of supporters, I guess more and more was unlocked. The base was Samus's gunship, but man, now that we've got all these votes, we have like the full Monty in here. There is just so much good stuff in here. We have Samus's gunship. We have all of the different versions of Space Pirates. We have a really wicked looking Lego Ridley, which is awesome. Lego Samus, of course. We've got the baby Metroid. We've got tons and tons of good stuff. I think that Zero Suit Samus has been unlocked, and I even think that there are different versions of Samus's ship as well that have been unlocked now with the Prime 3 version and the Prime 2 version. So this is such a cool project. Really, really awesome. I registered to vote and, would do it 20 times over if I could. What did you think when you saw this, Dak?
This was and I'm not someone who is particularly huge on Lego or anything like that now as an adult, but this is awesome. This is something that I'd have to buy, even just to have it, but I'd want to build it as well. Like, this is so cool. And it's something that Lego stuff was something I did more as a kid, but even now you can still certainly enjoy it as an adult, and especially for a Metroid, kit, if this actually existed, you'd have to get it. It looks really awesome, and I love how there are all these different parts, like you said, the different gunships. You have alternate, like, helmet variations for Samus and different add-ons for Ridley to make him, like, Meta Ridley and Proteus Ridley. I know some of this stuff is, like, more speculative, like, not entirely sure how much of it can actually get done, but, like, it's a really solid, like, concept, right? And it gives you a full scope of, like, what Metroid kind of is, right, in Lego form. So it looks awesome. There's so many cool things, and yeah, this was I guess supported, right? Like, I hit the 10,000 votes, which is what the criteria is for Lego to review the kit, right, to approve it. But I would have to assume that also this would have to go by Nintendo to get the license at all, right? So according to the creator, who, if I'm remembering correctly and wrote this down, their name is El Diego, said that on the site that they were creating the design and created it back in December 2019, which was something that they had put together before they even decided to submit it to Lego Ideas, and also didn't even really know about the the Super Mario Lego kit that also came out recently or was announced recently. So it seems like they just wanted to submit it, see what could happen, right? Whether or not Nintendo actually approves of it, if the Lego even approves of it, is something that's a completely other story. But I mean, it has like over 1,000 pieces, all these different add-ons. This is like, if you were like a Lego and a Metroid fan, this has to be like a dream for you. And it looks really cool. Like, it's so many awesome and neat ideas. Like, it looks like legit. Like, this is what I would expect from an official kit from Nintendo, right?
Yeah, it looks awesome. And like, I left out a ton of stuff while we were going over all of the different things in this kit. Like, there's Edecuns, there's Decoras, I didn't even know about the Proteus Ridley suit. I just quickly brought that up, and like, that's there. Like, this is super, super cool. You can actually like put Samus into the gunship. There's a little like, there's the dock that comes out of the bottom. You can put her in the top. It looks like really, really slick. And I love how giant Ridley is too. That's just like fantastic.
Well, I think what we should do maybe is to go into the updates section, right? And that'll show us all the different additions for this kit, and we can go through it and talk about how we think about all of them real quick. Why don't we do that?
That sounds good to me.
So,
that sounds good.
Yeah, let's start. Let's just go from the top, even though that we're kind of going in reverse because this is like chronologically in reverse order. But whatever, we're gonna scroll downwards. So You mentioned it earlier, but the most recent edition, right? This was the latest stretch goal since this obviously hit 100% and more. Was the Zero Suit Samus alteration, right? The different Zero Suit Samus variation for Lego Samus, which is pretty cool. Also pretty expected. Has the whip, no laser whip though, just the pistol, right? But still looks pretty cool and a nice little
You know
addition.
what's missing for sure? She doesn't have any of those high heel
Oh
things that she
yeah.
has in Smash.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't have the high heels in Smash. She doesn't have the birthmark either, right? Like this looks more of like
Ah.
the prime Zero Suit, like pre Other M Zero Suit Samus, which I think was interesting because on the first page, um, the creator mentions a number of the Metroid games being inspirations for these designs and mentions Other M at least once. So interesting that design didn't actually influence this Zero Suit, but I'm all for it. I think this Zero Suit looks great. So
Yeah, no doubt. What I was just like flabbergasted with, I think that this just looks so badass, is the gunship from Metroid Prime 3
yeah.
Corruption. That ship, I really love. I mean, I love the Super Metroid 2 model. That's like the iconic version. But if
Hmm.
I'm picking a second version, it's this ship. Like it just looks so cool. It looks like an actual fighter gunship, and they did a great job with just kind of realizing that here. This bad boy is 811 pieces, and God, this just looks so cool. It even has the transparent green like visor, I guess you would call it, and Samus can sit behind that. The guns look awesome. It just looks absolutely wild. And you can, in true to form as well, it like docks down. So like the two little, I don't
Like
even
the
know what you call it, the
legs.
pointy guns at they turn
Yeah.
into legs so that the ship can dock. This just looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, 100%. And that was honestly one of my favorite things about Prime 3 was the ship design and how awesome it looks in like that first trailer or like commercial for the game where the ship comes up behind Samus and it looks so badass. I think from like the original E3 reveal of Metroid Prime 3, you see that ship and I was like, "Wow, this looks so cool." And yeah, it has like the functionality. You can even store the Metroid, the baby Metroid in the capsule in like the ship itself, like so well thought out. Like you could have
Hmm.
easily just like have the ship right, and it looks cool and all of that, and like put Samus in it. But like going the extra step to like have the legs come down and have it dock like as the ship does in game, and Samus comes down from the bottom instead of from the top like the other ship, and having this compartment for the Metroid, like awesome, chef's kiss, really good. And honestly, this is like one of my favorite things about the kit overall.
You know what? I have to say, I think that one of my favorite things, because I just was not expecting it, is the Edacoons and Decoras. And there's a little baby Decora too, which is really cute. But man, these Edacoons and Decora look absolutely wild. Like they look super, super detailed. I don't know if it would be humanly possible to make the final product look as good as these images, but man, this looks really sharp, really crisp. We'd have to check them for X parasites, of course, but they look great. They look awesome.
Yeah, I well, the thing is that they might not be able to be created perfectly because they might be ex parasites, so they might be like
It's
clones,
possible.
but will
It's
they be
possible.
perfect clones? Who knows? I would have to imagine that like anything kind of being manufactured at like a larger scale probably won't be, it'll have imperfections, probably won't look as good. But these look really good. These are really cool designs, and they're very cute. I have a lot of personality. I like these. These are nice little additions. I wish you could kind of fit them into the ship with Samus, and get them in there. But now you can save or kill the animals. You can do your own Lego speed run to to full effect.
There you go. All right, well let's keep on. Let's keep going here. And there's a bunch of different designs
Oh, my
for our boy
favorite
Ridley
part.
here.
Here we go.
This is wild. There are 86 pieces allegedly in this in this kit for Ridley here, and so you can only have one at a time. Keep in mind, but you can either have your favorite version of Ridley. You can either be Meta Ridley, it can be Robo Ridley from from Zero Mission. You can have Omega Ridley, or you can have Proteus Ridley. These all look awesome, but I do have a slight nitpick here. Meta Ridley, I feel like, is basically just Proteus Ridley.
Well,
He needs to be all gray.
well, to be fair, I think like I guess he could be all gray, but I think it's pretty. I'd say it's pretty accurate. I mean, the differences between Meta Ridley and Proteus Ridley are pretty not insignificant, but they're kind of close. You know, like I think it's all right. I think if anything, Omega Ridley and Meta Ridley looked almost identical. I mean, they're exactly the same except like the head is a different color.
Mm.
Omega Ridley's not really like purple and yellow when I think of him, right? I think of him as like that dark blue ishy purplish kind of color, like this like dark bluish grayish blackish kind of color, I guess. A little bit of red. Like I
Hmm.
don't really think of like the yellow and purple that like Meta Ridley kind of invokes, or like even the regular Ridley. But still, I mean, even like Proteus Ridley looks like regular Ridley more than Proteus Ridley. But I like how like one leg is gray, the other one's purple. I think it's cool. It's cool, and I like that you can change it up, right? Like you can have all the different variations and go through it all. Really awesome idea. I love the love for Ridley here. I definitely appreciate it, and I also like that there's no other M Ridley here, which is cool. I think maybe like a fusion Ridley would have been cool, but playing with like the Meta Ridley versions, right, and even like the Robo Ridley, I didn't expect that. Like having Ridley Robot, a little love for Ridley Robot. Come on, like that's when has there been Ridley Robot merchandise? Like I don't think ever. So props to him.
I guarantee you never.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was mostly being facetious about Meta Ridley, but man, that would be such a badass stretch goal if like we could get Super Metroid Red Ridley and maybe Super Metroid Kraid.
Oh,
I don't know, if we get to like
Kraid would be his
12,000,
own
who
kit.
knows?
You'd have to have so many pieces just for
I'm
Kraid.
okay with that.
I mean, that'd be cool. That'd be like a separate Kraid box. I'd be
Yeah,
down for that.
I'm down to buy Kraid. All right, well, let's keep it going. One of the 67% stretch goal here was the Hunter class gunship as seen in Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime Hunters, and wow, this is like again just like strikingly spot on. What an awesome version of the gunship, and again, you've got the room for the baby Metroid in the back. There's a really cool like docking system for this to sit flat on the ground, but it propels it up a little bit. Wow, just a really awesome model. 835 pieces. So you got your work cut out for you building this bad boy, but it's going to be worth it because this looks slick.
Yeah, I think I prefer the other ship model, like in terms of like how it looks in this Lego kit, this Lego build. But I mean, it looks really awesome. Like, looks accurate as right. Like, I mean, you pretty
Mm-hmm.
essentially spot on, other than like the cockpit opening the way it does. But like that just, I mean, I feel like that's necessary, but looks really cool. I love it. I love how it captures like the look of the ship perfectly. Like it has like the legs coming down the cockpit right there. Like it's really awesome, and that you can have both versions of the ship is really cool. Again, another spot for the baby Metroid, because you gotta have a spot for the baby Metroid. I love how much room the baby Metroid takes up, and yeah, I think this is really awesome. Another, really good job by the creator. Certainly knows what they're doing in terms of like capturing the actual, look and feel of it too. And a lot of parts for sure, but I would love to build that. Looks really cool.
Absolutely. So yeah, so after that we have kind of the ones that we've talked about a little bit here. We have Ridley, and of course this Ridley model just looks like really awesome. This actually stuck out to me here because it was the creator mentioned that the design uses bionicle like ball joint pieces, which I guess like I don't consider Lego necessarily, even though it's basically like the same thing. But yeah, that's really cool, and it definitely explains how this Ridley just looks so unique and like dragon-like. I guess is the non-scientific term here, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, I like the pose is perfect, right? Like that's exactly how he looks when he's flying in game. And the bionicle parts are a nice touch. Like I think having that flexibility for like the tail and his neck and all of that like are really important, right? Like you can't have it be
Hmm.
too stiff. Like that's a big part of his character, I think. And the fact that he can pick up Samus, right? And throw her and drag her around, like that's perfect. That's like a staple of Ridley's thing now too. So yeah, I mean this like looks great. I love like the colors are awesome. The wings pop and the purple's like such a perfect shade. And I love the head too. Like it looks really good. I like an awesome version of Ridley. While I would definitely have the meta Ridley version most of the time, I like this regular Ridley, and I will pass on the creator mentioning that he might be a pterodactyl in the description because he's not. It's all right because I appreciate this awesome design and how well done it is. So yeah, awesome Ridley. Love the Ridley. Even for just the Ridley alone, I'd have to get this set for sure.
Absolutely. Let's keep going down. We've got a bunch of space pirates here, and these are the space pirates, mostly of like Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. They look pretty cool. They come in a bunch of different colors. You can kind of mix and match your colors. You've got like the darker ones. You've got the ones that you fight on Torian. You've got the ones from that are X enhanced, which is kind of cool. You can get the two that you fight right outside of Ridley's lair. So lots of different options. So yeah, they're just alternate designs, I guess. But and you'd probably have to buy them separately. But I like that you can kind of choose which ones that you actually want to buy. And actually, I'm looking at the chart right now, and it's pretty cool because there's a map of Super Metroid, and it lists basically exactly where you can find all of these different. I think where you can find all these different, or maybe this is actually just about the project. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think it's just
But
a
this looks
roadmap.
cool.
It's just like a Metroid themed roadmap for the project.
Oh,
And look, yeah, right.
that looks so cool. Actually, that's you know what you can really tell like the love. You know, even by that like small silly little map, like it's you could tell the love.
Oh, for sure. And unfortunately, another party pooper for you here. I don't. It doesn't seem like all 10 versions of these pirates will be available. I think those are just like the concept colors.
I see. I see.
Keep in mind the 10 designs shown in the following picture are just design alternatives. Do not expect to include all of them. Or don't expect to have all of them included. So it seems like at the very least we'd probably get like the retro and then like the Norfair pirates. But at least in terms of the other colors, let's say we did get them. I mean, personally, I love the mothership pirates, like the black and red ones. Those have always looked so cool. The silver ones, awesome. I've always loved the fusion pirates, like the purple and green with like the white on there. Fusion's so good. I love their designs, and even like the X enhanced are cool too. Like this is awesome. 100% agreed. Like the love going into it, but you can also tell like how many cool variations of space pirates there are. I think very rarely you kind of get that macro look at all the different space pirates throughout the games, and this is a nice, small, quaint little one. And there are so many cool different variations of space pirates, and space pirates themselves are something I wish got more love in terms of merchandise and promotion and whatnot, because they have a lot of cool designs. I mean, even going through like the concept art, right, for these the Prime games, so many cool ideas and designs for the space pirates just in those games alone. And then you can see here how many different designs would potentially could be made for the space pirates. Really awesome, and you could make like a cool fight scene with all these different space pirates at your disposal depending on what they pick. So yeah, another great addition.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And then after that, really, it's just kind of the gravy on the rest of the set. We get a bunch of different looks at Samus's helmet and how many different iterations it's went through, and some different concept art for the different visors that we've seen throughout the series here, including one of Dark Samus actually, which looks pretty awesome. But yeah, that's a lot of different designs for Samus here. This is just like such a cool set. It's such a cool idea. And I really hope that this sees the light of day. I'm not holding my breath because Nintendo is Nintendo. But on the flip side of that, Nintendo finally did just partner up with Lego to release some Super Mario Lego.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe never say never.
I hope so. I mean, I love these helmet designs. Again, Samus has so many cool helmet designs, and this is a nice like macro look at it. I gotta say again, I love the fusion helmet. I love like the color. I love the visor. It looks so awesome, And the Dark Samus one looks so sick too. That would be
It
awesome.
looks pretty
And then there
awesome.
are even some cool ideas below that, like that I believe might not be included, or like there's like the Mandalorian shaped one, right? And then you have a couple other like odd helmet choices there. But I think that's a great idea to have like a customizable Samus helmet. Like maybe you could do other customizable stuff too, like different arm cannons and shoulder pads and whatnot to like mix and match your own personal Samus, right? Like that'd be a cool idea. Like using like one game's arm cannon, another game's helmet, another game's shoulder pads, and creating some own like some wild looking kind of Samus. Like I think that's one of the things that would be really cool for this kind of kit, right? Is like mixing and matching all the different upgrades and variations that Metroid has and putting them into different combinations that you don't really get to do in game because it would be kind of dumb and silly. But for Lego, it would be really fun and fun. So yeah, love this part of it and hope that would be a big inclusion into the project.
I don't think I've ever told you this, but I think that you would appreciate this. I remember fondly getting my buddy for Christmas one year a Halo Lego set, and
Oh,
I can't remember which one it was, but he lived out of town. And I went to visit him, and we just hung out for a night, drank some beer, and built this Lego set, and it was like super super fun. And I just like would love to do that with Metroid, and particularly with Metroid and all of Samus's different ships. One of the
mm-hmm.
questions that we were going to follow up with is what kind of Metroid merchandise would you like to see in the future? And for me, I have a very very modest Metroid collection. I'm looking at it right now. I've got Samus's arm cannon. I've got the Metroid, the creature Metroid. I've got the World of Nintendo figure and a bunch of different Samus amiibo and Samus World of Nintendo figures. But I feel like almost Metroid has kind of the same thing. It's almost like the same problem that Zelda has, where there's a lot of figures of Link and Samus, but there's not really a lot of figures of anything else. So like I would love to see more stuff from Metroid, like a Chozo statue or like a missile. And you can find a lot of this cool stuff on Etsy, but from Nintendo is very few and far between. But the one thing that I really, really wanted was a model of Samus's ship. And for me, I was just like, I don't know if I want to fork out like $1,000 for the first four figures version. So just like, even if it was an amiibo or something, but like a really nice, model of Samus's ship, I just think would look so crisp. It would be so cool. I mean, as this Lego idea shows us, there's all of these different types of gunships that you could pull from. So that would be like maybe number one up on my list of wants in terms of Metroid merchandise. So this really scratches all of my proverbial itches here.
I'm 100% with you on having like a ship to build or some kind of model. That'd be awesome. And you mentioned like the Halo Lego. I know that you can build like for the Lego or the constructs or whatever they have for Halo, like a Pelican and all of that. Like how cool would it be to be able to build a different gunship so like a bigger model scale, maybe even like one of the GFS ships, right? Like the Olympus, like one of the big carriers. Like that'd be sick. And I would definitely scratch a similar itch for me because growing up loved to do like building car models. So like that would be awesome to have like a ship, building Samus's ship, building maybe Silex's ship, or another hunter ship, something like that. So many opportunities. So definitely agree with you there. Looking through like my collectibles for Metroid, I have like some posters that are like movie size. My amiibos, some pixel art. You mentioned Etsy. I feel like even though we're talking about like official merchandise, Etsy is still a great, I think, option to find a lot of like the more obscure stuff. Like there's at least
Oh,
someone
it's a
making
haven.
something. Yeah, like there's always at least some person making something for something you like. And there's a bunch of people on there that have made some really cool Metroid stuff. I can try to find the links for people if they're curious and you reach out to me. But two of my favorite things I found on Etsy was one, this Ridley plush, this little Ridley plush that I have that I think I made my my avatar on Twitter. So that I got, and that's a really cool thing because there are no Metroid plushies like at all. Maybe there might be like a Samus or Metroid, like Baby Metroid out there, but I've never seen one. And I had that Ridley plushie made, and that was awesome. And then I also have this kind of like, I wouldn't say it's like a diorama, but it's kind of like a pop out kind of scene of like the Samus versus Ridley initial like quote unquote fight at the beginning of Super Metroid. Really cool, and I'll take a picture of it. Um, it's really awesome, like the kind of artwork that people will do. But in terms of the something official that I would really want, and like the model for the ship, really cool. You mentioned that arm cannon, which I haven't picked up the arm cannon. I always wanted like a functioning kind of like morph ball, maybe like not like a model or something like that, but I don't know, just something that like lights up or like has like a cool spider, like a like track effect on the sides, something like that. That would be really cool. Samus is like a working Samus helmet would be sick as well. I've always wanted one of those. I like.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's like a go-to there for sure. Got to have the Samus helmet. I've seen so many people with like Master Chief helmets all over the place. Like, where's my Samus helmet? I'd have to go for that too. And yeah, I think those would probably be my biggest picks. Oh, and then I guess one of the other favorite things I had, and I wish we got more of these. I don't know if you ever got this, Andy, and I wanted to, and then I didn't because they stopped making them and then the price went up, was the special edition Samus Returns 3DS. I don't know if you ever saw that or got it, but I really wish we would get more. Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you or have heard of it?
Well, I saw it, but I'm not really one to collect consoles, like variants of consoles. I don't have any Zelda ones. I don't have any Metroid ones. I'm more of like a thing collector, like if there's a new Samus figure or like a toy or something like that, like I'll pick it up. I think that I have every single Samus World of Nintendo toy, but that's not saying much.
Oh yeah. See, I want to get more of that stuff, but haven't. And I do agree that I'm not like, huge on getting special edition consoles or something like that. But I do think it's cool for Metroid to have that kind of stuff, especially for people who do want to buy it. And
Yeah,
I thought
totally.
the Samus Returns 3DS looked really cool. I think it'd be awesome if there was like a special Metroid Prime 4 Switch. I would certainly buy it if they got like a special Switch Pro that was for Metroid Prime 4. I'd definitely get it, or the Joy-Cons. Even if like not everybody get it, like or got it, it would show that like it gives more importance to it, I think, right? When you put out a special edition of something, right? It's not just you're putting out the regular retail version. There's a little more to it, and kind of gives the franchise a little more importance and opportunity for people to spend more money on the brand. So I hope they do something
Yep.
with Metroid Prime 4. And there are some cool designs they could do with Metroid. So I really hope that we get some kind of stuff with that. Even though I don't buy that kind of stuff often, I would buy it for Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, no doubt. And before we move on from the subject, I found what I was looking for on Etsy. It took me a second, but one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, and our boy Ryan from Metro Database has this in his home. There is this wicked Kraid statue, and it's sold out. It's not available anymore, but this thing looks so badass, and it's by someone named Fizzman Sculptures. So check it out, and God, this thing looks very cool. To kind of go off what you said, yeah, I hope that when Prime 4 comes out, one of the things that they do is kind of like I said, like probably we're gonna get a Samus amiibo, right? But I want to see more beyond just Samus.
Right.
And actually,
Yes.
Metroid has kind of done okay with this so far because we have Samus, but we also have a Metroid. We also have Ridley. We also have Dark Samus. So, and we have Zero Suit Samus. So like it's not too terribly Samus focused. You contrast that to Legend of Zelda, which literally has about 10 different Link amiibo. But I think that it would be cool if if Prime 4 is coming out, we got Silex as the bad guy. Let's make one of Silex and like kind of give him that rub and show him that like, hey, this character is important, or like whoever that happens to be. You know what, that character, the one of the main characters of Metroid, they get their own amiibo, or maybe there's a with Breath of the Wild, they released some Hot Topic puzzles that came out with that. I would love to see those for Metroid as well. I have a bunch of Zelda puzzles framed in my basement, and I would love to add some Metroid to that. So yeah, I really hope that kind of licensed stuff is forthcoming when Prime comes out.
I agree. And you mentioned Etsy again, so I actually had to look up really quickly what I was talking about earlier because I was like, well, these orders are probably in my account, right? So I looked it up really quickly. Um, and so the second thing I mentioned, that kind of the Ridley versus Samus fight, it's the Super Metroid Ridley 3D Shadow Box Diorama by Pixelvania, and I'll post a link on Twitter. But definitely recommend it. It looks so cool. Look it up, Pixelvania. I mean, I love the Shadow Box. Looks sick. And I'm not sure if the Ridley plushie is made anymore, but it's made by I'll post the link again, Pucat Dino Crafts. And even though the Ridley's not there anymore, you might be able to message them and see if they'll make you one. So also a great seller and makes some cool stuff there. So definitely agree. I mean, Etsy has some awesome stuff and
No doubt.
wants some more official stuff. And you also mentioned first four figures, Andy. You said you don't want to get into the first four figure stuff. I don't know if you know that I got myself a Meta Ridley Metroid Prime exclusive edition first four figures Meta Ridley figure, which I'm still waiting
I've seen
for.
it, and I asked you what your address was because I'm gonna come and break into your apartment and steal it when it comes in.
I ordered that back in August of 2019, and I'm still waiting on it. It's been pushed back because of like manufacturing, and then with COVID, I've been paying it off. I think like month to month for a while now, and honestly, now I'm gonna look it up because I have no idea where we're at in terms of like if it's gonna be when it's being sent or what's happening with this thing. But it looks awesome. I can't wait to actually get it because it looks so sick. Probably has to
Yeah.
be one of like my favorite Metroid related kind of merchandise pieces that you could possibly get. I mean, it looks badass. So really looking forward to getting that, and I'm gonna have to look up to see when I am gonna get it because it's been super long since the order started for it.
Yeah, you can't say that first four figures works quickly. Although a lot of their stuff is pretty awesome.
It's
So
worth
I
the
will
wait.
give them that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we wanted to talk about some of our favorite Metroid merchandise, just kind of go through this Lego set, but we also wanted to fit in a few fan questions here that a couple different people have asked us over the last week or so. So I guess without further ado, Dak, you ready to tackle these?
Yeah, for sure. We had a few questions. I think one we might have even mentioned a bit last week, but we didn't get into too much. So I figure, well, here's the opportunity to do that. We collected a couple questions that just a small handful of people sent us over the past week or so. But I mean, we get a couple questions. I feel like every week, and we try to touch on them here and there or amass them into one Q&A question, but or Q&A episode. But we figured, yeah, like let's round out this episode, get to these questions before time passes too much, and they felt a bit timely in some kind of way too. So at the very least, because they were asked recently. So yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it. All right. So Chris06 asked us, I think he asked us last week, right before we started recording, thoughts on Samus being replaced by a new character in future games. You know what, Chris? I'm okay with this. I think that, I mean, obviously, we're talking mainline Metroid games here, I'm assuming. So my answer is based off that. Like, we can do as many side games and spin-offs and Federation Forces as we want. I'm definitely okay with those to keep them coming. But if we were doing like Metroid Prime 7, let's just say, and that did not have Samus in it, I think that you could absolutely do that. I think I mentioned last week Metal Gear Solid 2 as an example of a way to do this. It's a great way to build up a new character. I think that there are a bunch of different ways that you could do this, and I think that they would all make sense. One of them, you could just simply tell a story of like, Samus is missing, and now somebody has to go and find her, and you could build up a new character and a new hunter. You could also do a story similar to that. Maybe Samus is missing, or Samus is busy, or something, and you could maybe spend some time with another hunter, like Silex, or someone like that. Or you could kind of go a different direction. And you could do like a prequel game, and maybe that's set thousands of years before. Maybe you're playing as a Chozo warrior. You could even go the other direction and we could do like the Batman Beyond / Logan route, where like maybe Samus is older now, but she's mentoring a younger hunter. So yeah, I think that this could definitely work. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how you tell it, right? But I think that I don't think that it's such a ridiculous statement that I could definitely get behind a Metroid game that didn't have Samus in it. I think that that's fine.
Yeah, I agree with you there for sure. I mean, I think I said this last week, in that there's still so much more of Samus's story to tell that I don't want it yet, right? Like, there's still a lot that can be told for the current Metroid story, Samus's current story, her future, so much more that can be done with the character, right? Like, I still feel like decades into this series, there's so much more we can learn and know about what happens in Metroid, right? Or what could happen. So,
Mm-hmm.
still want more of that. That being said, yeah, definitely not against the idea. I think it really comes down to, feasibly, like, the best reasoning for Samus to not be involved in the game, right? Because I like to, at least I would like to think that if there's like a really credible like threat to the peace, threat to the galaxy or peace in the galaxy, that Samus would be there unless something is really stopping her from being there. So like whatever that thing is to stop her from being there, I think has to be like really strong or sufficient. So either she's dead, which could be an option. You mentioned missing. I think missing is kind of hit or miss because it kind of like the reason for them to be missing needs to be really, really strong. Like they are like there's no way for them to be there. Like it can't like and that I'm okay with. Like if they're so far removed, not like oh they're busy, like oh they're doing something else nearby, like Captain like she's not like doing like a Captain Marvel where like oh yeah she's busy like somewhere else in the galaxy like can't be there. She needs to be like very sufficiently out of commission or unable to be there. And then you mentioned like she's retired or older. I like that idea too. I think I like it less than the first two, but I think an older Samus is a good idea. I would even like a game starring an older Samus before even getting to like a game where you play as someone younger who is being mentored by her. Going that older Samus route I think would be great too. But yeah, I think like Samus mentoring or maybe being somehow involved in the younger hunters kind of right like coming of age story or whatever it is getting better or a new rival for Samus, something like that. You could even go like a Last of Us 2 route and play like a character that's opposing Samus and like I don't know, spoilers, kill her in the end or something, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not against it as long as Samus's story is told. I think personally, I would think it would be cool if Samus is either like killed or like goes disappears or something like that. I think those are the ideas that I would personally be more of a fan of. Samus
Mm-hmm.
like becomes a legend or a myth or just really kind of disappears rather than just being like a senior citizen or a teacher, right? Which I don't kind of see her in that role, though she could be, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And could certainly be written well too. But yeah, definitely doable. But that's how I would go about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a caveat to what I said too, and I like everything that you laid out, but I do want to just put a disclaimer there. I think that if you are going to replace Samus, the person that you replace her with definitely has to be compelling. It can't just be like a Marine number six like we saw in Federation Force. I'm thinking of some series that have replaced their lead characters and like Metal Gear Solid, Devil May Cry come to mind. There's probably a bunch of others that I'm just can't think of off the top of my head. But you know what? Those characters did experience a little bit of backlash right away. So I also think that maybe what they could do is like something that might smooth over that transition. You could introduce that character beforehand in a previous game. I kind of joked earlier about like Metroid Prime 7, but it might help if you met the person that is going to replace Samus in Metroid Prime 6. So a little bit of food for thought there. But yeah, I mean, I think that there is a lot of like really compelling stories that you can tell that don't necessarily have to involve Samus. I think that I think that there's definitely lots of room to explore like a long time in the past or a long time in the future, and I think that those stories could be really cool.
Well, that's the
So
thing.
yeah, I'm all for it, Chris.
That's the thing too is, and I'm definitely for it. But at the same time, it's almost like, is it even necessary? Because there's still so much that could be done with the series and with Samus overall that like do you even need to create another character? There's so much that could be done with like earlier in her life, later in her life, and also currently advancing the active story that's happening in the games. And you mentioned a bunch of other franchises that, have had other characters like show up and replace the current protagonists, but even for those franchises you mentioned, I'm pretty sure those characters ended up coming back, right? Like Metal Gear Solid, Snake he comes back as a main character, and
Right.
other characters come back as like main characters. I was thinking of like God of War, where he even Kratos gets old and he's still the main character, even though he's teaching like a younger, he's teaching his son, right? Like he's still the main character. So it's hard to like swap out your main character and try to go a different
Well,
route
yeah.
and have it work really
One
well.
caveat too. Well, I feel like I feel like you could never completely remove Samus from Metroid. I don't think you could do that. I think that you could have like a Metroid game that comes out without Samus as the character, but like, or the main playable character. But I'm gonna go back to my joke where I said Metroid Prime 7. I would expect that Samus would be playable again in Metroid Prime 8 or in like the next 2D Metroid. Like I don't think that you would ever completely replace Samus. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. Yeah, I think there's, as much as it's definitely possible, I don't think you can really separate the two. I also feel the same way about Ridley, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt.
All right. Well, there you go, Chris. Good question. Great question. And we'd love to hear your thoughts over on Discord if you agree or disagree with us. Let's go over to Fussel Russell. Shout out to our boy Fussel. He asks, how would we rather incorporate a playable Ridley into a Metroid game? Ganondorf has his own missions in Hyrule Warriors. Bowser is playable in Mario Kart and some of the RPGs. What would you do with Ridley?
Yeah,
I'm going to let you go first. I have a few answers, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
yeah. Thanks, Fussel Russell, for the DM'd question. Much appreciated. And yeah, so this is a multi-part question, I think, here, because you have to kind of unpack it in terms of like the context that's been given, right? Because you have like Ganondorf and Bowser mentioned, but like look at the games that have been mentioned. Like Ganondorf hasn't been made his own playable character in a main Zelda game. Bowser hasn't been made playable in a main Mario game. So it's Ridley, likely in the same logic, really probably won't be made a playable character in a main Metroid game. Uh, and I think that's probably a good thing, right? I think you want to kind of stick to your boss characters being bosses. It's your spin-offs where you can kind of open it up a little more. Bowser being playable in Mario Kart, I don't think really has much weight to it. Ganondorf, same with Hyrule Warriors. I mean, Hyrule Warriors is like a super spin-off here, so it's not like that's really happening in the main games. So I don't think that would happen for Ridley, and it makes me hard to think of like how would you incorporate Ridley as a playable character into a main Metroid game? Because as a spin-off game, I think that's probably pretty easy, right? Like if you did like a Federation Force type game, there could be like a special Ridley boss mode where you play as Ridley and you're taking on like a team of characters, right? Like a reverse evolve situation. Or, Metroid Prime Hunters could have the same kind of mode, or Ridley could even be his own character, but maybe he has, more HP and tied to certain modes or maps, stuff like that, and make him playable in those kinds of games, right? Where in a spin-off, it makes more sense. But, Andy, I got to think on it more. I don't know if it's like, if even Ridley should be playable in a main Metroid game, and I'm not sure how he would be.
Right, right. Russell, I think that you answered your own question in your question, where like the best way to get a playable Ridley is to have him playable in a game like Metroid Warriors or something like that, where Ridley can just like decimate like 100 Marine soldiers and do all these crazy cool moves and whatever. And you know what? Age of Calamity did make the Warriors games slightly more like canon and less kind of spin-offy. Some would argue that, but to me at least, it somewhat legitimized that a little bit more, where I could see maybe like there could be a canon Warriors game. It obviously would still be a side story and a side game, but I think that's like your best bet, where you could have Ridley as a playable character, or like some kind, maybe not necessarily Warriors, but like some kind of game like that. Just like you touched on, maybe he could be an unlockable character or something. I mean, in Age of Calamity, you can unlock Calamity Ganon in that game, and
Okay.
obviously that's not really canon. So, you can just kind of schmuck around as the bad guy, and I think that maybe you could do that if you were to do, you know, a Warriors game. I don't think that would really work for Hunters because that's obviously we've talked about this before. That's more of a first-person shooter-centric game, and I don't know that that necessarily works for Ridley. I don't know that I want to control Ridley just do in a standard first-person
I don't
point of
know
view.
if
But
I
I mean,
either.
maybe
Yeah, I don't know if I do
if it
either.
was good, because I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe they could make it kind of cool, but I'm not seeing how that could be, something really slick off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think that one thing that maybe they could do, and this is the only way really that I see this happening, is in a 2D Metroid game. Maybe there is some DLC released, and it's like I don't know, a Ridley side story, and you
Ridley's
can catch
inside
up with
story.
like I mean, like something like
Yeah.
here. I'll pitch this, and this kind of bleeds into our next question for you here. But like maybe they could, let's say that they remade Super Metroid, right? And it's a 2D game, and they release some DLC, and you can actually play as Ridley, and like your main objective is to storm Sarah's space station. You have to fight a bunch of defense robots and other things that are in that station, and at the end of it, you steal the baby Metroid, and your final boss of that game is you have to fight Samus, and once you beat Samus, then you make it out of there with the baby Metroid. That's about as good of a pitch as I can come up with for how a playable Ridley could or should be incorporated into a Metroid game.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
That's the best I got.
Yeah.
For like a canon kind of an adventure.
I'm thinking.
There you go.
I'm thinking if they were to do Ridley in like a spin-off and they did like Metroid Prime Hunters, I think Hunters would have to go more of like the Overwatch route, right? That game kind of has like some like has like Winston, for example, who's a really big
Yeah,
gorilla.
totally.
So like I think it's doable, but Metroid Prime Hunters was more of like an arena shooter in terms of character FPSs, in terms of like hero-based shooters rather than Overwatch, which is somewhat arena-y, but some maps aren't. I guess it is kind of like an arena character shooter, but it does have those bigger character models that Metroid Prime Hunters, the original, didn't. And then I was thinking, the only other thing I would think of is if you were to do it in like an actual Metroid, like main Metroid game and not a spin-off, would be if you had some kind of part of the game, whether it's a mission or just segment or whatever it is, where you play as Ridley in like a dogfighting perspective, where like instead of controlling a ship, you're controlling Ridley fighting other ships, maybe in the sky or in space, right? And you have this like segment where you're attacking ships in like the vacuum of space or like in orbit, or somewhere in the sky somewhere as Ridley, but he's kind of taking the place of like a ship essentially that you'd be controlling. Like there might be another scenario
Right.
where you're actually controlling Samus's ship, but there could be that one too where you're using Ridley for some reason. I don't think tonally it would really work, or why you would want to like put the player's perspective in Ridley's perspective for some reason, but that's how I think it would make for like a good awesome like mission, right? If for some reason like there was a side mission where you play as Ridley and you fight a bunch of like galactic ships or some other kind of enemy ships in like orbit as Ridley, and you're just like plasma beaming them down and whatnot and flying around and swooping around, like that'd be pretty cool. I'd be down for that, and might make a bit more sense than doing it in Samus's ship, where Samus really hasn't taken me as much of like a dogfighty kind of pilot, right? Even though that would also be cool. I think would be how I would implement Ridley into like a main Metroid game.
Yeah, that could be cool. Part of me like, that's probably another realistic scenario. Part of me, when you're playing as Ridley, doesn't want to be like flying and like shooting, but just wants to be like mauling and mashing close quarters. But I could see that happening. I mean, to answer your question, Fussel Russell, I think that it's probably a lot more likely that we'll end up playing as Silex or another hunter that could be played from a first-person perspective versus Ridley anytime soon. So yeah, that's what I think. All right, last one here. This is from Accursed Hunter 01. He asks, if Nintendo does make a Super Metroid remake eventually, what is the best case scenario? Man, the best case scenario is that it has Ridley DLC where you can
Yeah, exactly.
play the prologue. You know what? That actually would be kind of cool now that I say it. That'd be cool.
Best case scenario.
Best case is actually that it's built in. But I'm gonna elaborate on my answer here a little
Yeah,
bit.
go for it.
The the best case scenario. I mean, I think that you and I both agree that probably the best case scenario is that they don't do this, right? And that they just make a new 2D Metroid game. Because Super Metroid is already available on the Switch. I think that Super Metroid is basically a perfect game and really doesn't need to be remade. But let's just say that for the purpose of this question, if they did remake it, what's the best case scenario? I mean, the best case scenario is that this has just an incredible amount of polish in it, that it gets the same treatment that Samus Returns and Metroid Zero Mission does, where they add in new bosses and like post game content, a remastered soundtrack, a really big marketing push for it, and by God, a Ridley and Kraid amiibo would be the best case scenario. But I mean, yeah, that would be, and obviously best case scenario, the game is a hit. So I mean, that would be high up there. If everything aligned, that could be pretty cool. But I mean, I think we all kind of agree that necessarily Super Metroid doesn't need to be remade, and yeah, that's my answer for you, Hunter.
I gotta disagree. I don't think it's, at least for me, it's not a question of whether or not Super Metroid needs to be remade, because I think it could be remade for sure. I just want new Metroid games first. I'm just sick of remakes, but I think Super Metroid could definitely be remade. It's an old game. It's that it could certainly be streamlined a bit and modernized a bit for sure. I mean, the game is almost 30 years old, or yeah, it's almost 30 years old. I mean, it's old as hell.
It would help to have a dedicated missile button. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
like
My God, that's probably my least favorite thing about Super
updating
Metroid.
the controls, maybe streamlining and updating like the wall jump physics a bit. I think would be helpful. Obviously, high definition graphics and soundtrack. You obviously want that. And I agree on the other points too. Like I think having like additional content, like added bosses, maybe a new area, I think would be sick. Like some added new location, a whole new area would be really cool to go to. Maybe some new weapon upgrades. Like I honestly think what would be the best thing for a Super Metroid remake is not to do it like 1-to-1. And I'm sure some people might be afraid hearing that because they want like, oh, we don't want like the stuff that makes the game great removed. And I agree. And unfortunately I think there might be some compromises made, and certainly Nintendo likes to make changes to things after they've been released. And I want all those speed running kind of stuff and the original games like exploits and gimmicks and all that still intact, but I would love the game to be streamlined a bit and modernized in terms of graphics and new things added to it, new bosses, stuff like that, to really give the game like a fresh feel, because a remake is cool, but I've played Super Metroid so many times. If the remake's going to happen, I want new stuff, and I think Metroid remakes do a great job of not just remaking the game but like remastering it and adding new stuff to it too. One thing I would love is if like they really leaned into the speedrunning stuff, maybe added like a practice mode, or a time trial mode, or maybe even like an online speedrunning mode where you could speedrun against other people live, right? Like that'd be really cool. Do like sections of the game or the full game run. That'd be really sick, and upload your times online. Like really lean into the stuff that makes the game still a lot of fun to play, even 20 30 years later. That's the kind of stuff I would love to see. And I also agree, Ridley and Kraid amiibo, but I don't want separate ones. I want a Ridley and Kraid amiibo, just one package, like their buddy cop movie.
Oh,
how great would that be?
give me 4 separate amiibo. Actually, give me 5 with Mother Brain in there and Dragon. Yeah, we had trouble saying his name a couple weeks ago too. Dragon and Fantoon. That would be cool. I totally agree with you about speedrunning. Actually, you took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to mention that. That would be really wicked if you could lean into that and just really embrace the community. Keep, maybe you could keep some of those glitches in, and instead of fighting them, just embrace it. That would be great. You know what? I kind of threw it out there, but like now that I said it, I do think that prologue with Ridley could be kind of interesting if they were to go and do that. So yeah, new areas, new enemies, new items, the ability to just hold a button down, and that's how you have your missiles and super missiles.
Dude,
would be very nice.
What if you had like the prequel? You control Ridley as he like raids the Saris like space station, right? And you play as Ridley as he grabs and you play up to him getting the baby Metroid. Like that'd be cool.
Yeah. That was my pitch.
Yeah,
That was my idea
that's what
for playing as Ridley.
that's what I'm saying. Like I'm with you on there.
That's cool.
I'm with you on there,
Yeah.
100%. But
So I would be down for that, but yeah, I mean, like best case scenario, it gets all of this, and you know what? Worst case scenario, I think, is that you get a 1-for-1 port with updated graphics and music, and you know what? Even that's really not that bad, and you'd have the quality of life changes. And you know what? Even if it's just that, which I really don't think it would be, because history shows us that they don't just do that. But even if it was, you're still getting a fantastic 2D Metroid game, and you're getting that into the hands of tons of new players on Nintendo Switch. And you know what? I think that would be a great thing regardless. So really, other than the Metroid fans and us that are just like, please give us a new 2D Metroid game, there isn't really a whole lot of downfalls to doing this.
No, I mean,
So, yeah.
I definitely agree. And I think the Super Metroid remake is probably a no-brainer. But I think at the same time, you also mentioned it that, Super Metroid is also still available on your Switch if you want to play it. So I really wish we had such a good idea of what they're doing with Metroid. We still have no idea. Like, are they just making Metroid Prime 4? Are they working on another 2D Metroid? Are they working on other Metroid stuff at the same time? Like, as much as I like that Nintendo can keep stuff hype till it's ready to go and secretive and really work on something until they feel like it's polished and ready. At the same time, I wish we had a roadmap or some kind of idea of what they were doing, because it would, I don't know, the endless speculation kind of wears on you after a while. And at the same time, it also would be nice to have that kind of confidence that, they're not just making Metroid Prime 4. They're really investing in beyond that too. Who knows? Maybe I should just be satisfied with just knowing that Metroid Prime 4 is coming. But I know it's been 2 years since they announced the restart of the redevelopment. It's been 4 years approaching the game being announced. So it's
Yep. It's 2 years today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
The day that we were recording this.
Yeah, so it's wild to me that we just still know so little about not even just Prime 4, but about the future of the franchise. And at the end of the day, it's a video game. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world that we don't know what's next for Metroid, but it would be nice to know.
It would be nice to know. It would be nice if we could just get Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Switch, for God's sakes, please.
Hey man,
put the trilogy
join us on
Switch.
PC and get to gaming, my friend.
I would rather hook up my Wii and Wii U and then play on PC. I ain't that guy. But I will say, I would love to see that. I would love to see a Super Metroid remake. I would rather see a Fusion remake before that. I think that game has a lot more that needs fixing. But you know what? We'll take anything that we can get. Dak, anything you wanna throw in before we get on out of here for this week?
I'm trying to think, and I'm drawing a blank, my friend. I'm drawing a blank. I think we've covered everything so far. So yeah, I'm good.
Well, there you go. Drawing a blank means that it is time to get out of here. Thank you to the guys that asked us the questions, and thank you to everyone that shared and voted for this Metroid Lego set. And let's cross our fingers and pray to the Nintendo gods that this ends up happening one day. I don't care how much it costs. I would buy it. We are getting out of here. Thank you for listening this week. We want you to check us out over on Twitter at Omega Metroid Pod. You can check me out at Spateri316 and Dak out at DakCity_, and also on Twitch. That is going to do it for us. Of course, we want you to check out the Omega Metroid Podcast wherever you go and get your podcasts. If that's iTunes, Spotify, wherever, go and like and subscribe and leave us that nice 5-star review if you think we've earned it. That'd be really cool. We'll read them off on the show if we can get them. Until next week, guys, take care.